Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down your complete guide to landing a job in one of the absolute hottest fields in tech, Agentic AI. We're going to give you the exact steps, the specific projects to build, and the key skills you need to get hired. Okay, so let's dive right in. First off, what even is Agentic AI? Well, think of a standard LLM, like a simple chatbot, right? You ask a question, it gives you an answer. Agentic AI, though, is a massive leap forward. You give it a high-level goal, something like, research the market for electric scooters and write me a report. It then figures out the steps, executes them, and delivers the result. It's the difference between an assistant that can answer questions and one that actually does the work for you. And this is exactly why it should matter to you right now. The demand for engineers who can build these systems is just exploding. Companies are shifting. They don't just want people who can analyze data anymore. They need AI engineers who can build systems that take action, solve complex problems, and deliver real results. But hold on. Before you just dive headfirst into this, it is so important to understand the single biggest reason most people fail when they try to break into this field. It's a trap that's incredibly easy to fall into, but it's also pretty easy to avoid if you see it coming. So here's the mistake. Trying to learn everything at once. A beginner hears all the buzzwords, LangChain, RAG, vector databases, multi-agent systems, the whole shebang, and they try to tackle it all at the same time. And what happens? They get completely overwhelmed and they quit. The right approach is way more methodical. You follow a structured roadmap, building your skills layer by layer. And that's exactly what we have for you today. This isn't just some vague advice. This is the exact step-by-step roadmap that takes you from the absolute basics all the way to building and deploying advanced AI systems. So you ready? Let's walk through it. All right, step one, and listen, you absolutely cannot skip this part. Python fundamentals. You've got to be comfortable with functions and classes. You have to know how to work with APIs to pull data from other services, and you need to be able to handle basic data formats like JSON. Seriously, this is the bedrock for everything that follows. Next up, step two. You need to build a really solid mental model of the engine that powers all this, the large language model. What even are tokens? Why does everyone keep talking about context windows? How does a system prompt guide an AI's behavior? Understanding these fundamentals is totally non-negotiable if you want to build reliable agents. Now it's time to get your hands dirty. In step three, you're going to learn how to communicate directly with models from places like OpenAI or Anthropic using their APIs. You'll practice making the calls, parsing the responses they send back, and, this is super important, managing the chat history so your app can actually have a real conversation. And to make sure all of that really sticks, you're going to build something practical. A simple chatbot that runs right in your terminal. But here's the key. It has to remember the last few things you said. This little project is proof that you know how to manage state and talk to an LLM with your code. Let's move on to step four. And folks, this one is a huge deal. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. This is one of the most in-demand skills in AI right now. It's the technique that lets you give an LLM knowledge about your private data, stuff it was never trained on. You'll learn how to break up documents, create things called embeddings, and use a vector database to find the right information. And the project for this step? Oh, this is a real game changer for your portfolio. You're going to build a system where you can upload any PDF and just start asking it questions. The AI will use RAG to find the answers right there in the document. It's an incredibly powerful and practical way to show off your skills. With all those foundations in place, you are now finally ready for step five, building your first true AI agent. This is where you learn how to give an LLM access to tools, like a web search or a calculator, and how it can use patterns to plan and execute tasks that take multiple steps to complete. So your goal here is to build a fully autonomous agent. Think about this. You give it a topic, and then you just step back. It goes out on its own, searches the web, figures out what's important, pulls it all together, and writes a structured report, all without you having to intervene. Okay, if you thought that was cool, step six is where things get really powerful. We're moving beyond a single agent now. We're talking about building a whole team of specialized agents that collaborate. You'll learn about having a manager or orchestrator agent that delegates tasks to different worker agents, each with its own specific job. It's incredible stuff. And finally, step seven. Look, building cool things on your laptop is great, but companies hire you to ship products.
This is where you learn how to take your AI application, wrap it in an API, put it in a container with Docker, and actually deploy it to the cloud, all while managing things like security and logging like a real pro.
So you follow the roadmap. You've learned all the skills. How do you actually prove it to an employer? The answer is a portfolio that tells a really clear story about your growth and what you can do. And the source material is very specific about this, so listen up. Your portfolio needs these 3 key projects. You start with that RAG-based chatbot for your documents. Then you build the autonomous research agent. And for your advanced project, you create a multi-agent system that solves a real business problem, like automating a customer support workflow. That progression tells a powerful story. Now let's talk about the skills that go beyond just writing the code. These are the things that separate a good candidate from a great one, the person who really gets the field and gets hired on the spot. First, you need to be an expert in prompt engineering to make your agents reliable. Second, you have to know how to evaluate and test your systems. This is a massive gap in the industry right now. Third, cost optimization, because those API calls are not free. And finally, security. You've got to know how to protect your agents from attacks like prompt injection. Okay, we've covered the what, the why, and the how. Let's finish up with the when, because a roadmap is only useful if you actually have a timeline to follow. For somebody who already has some basic Python knowledge, this is a totally realistic 6-month timeline. Months 1 and 2 are for locking down those foundations and building your first RAG project. Months 3 and 4, you're doing a deep dive into agents. And in months 5 and 6, you master multi-agent systems and deployment. By the end of that, you are completely job ready. And that really brings us to the final point here. We've laid out the entire plan for you. The best resources to learn all of this, the official documentation, free online courses, they're all available to everyone. The path is right there. And this is the most important takeaway from this whole thing. You don't need a PhD. You need Python, you need curiosity, and you need the discipline to follow this path and build real projects. The opportunity in this space is just enormous.